So, good morning, everyone. We'll begin with the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action, and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, combat into such action, and results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. We'll continue to follow Acharya Mun's cultivation and experiences. And we're continuing on with this particular encounter with a great Naga spirit who is very critical of everyone who comes near him. And so this Naga has been criticizing Acharya Mun for his practice, walking too loud, making too much noise, being not a good monk, so on and so forth. And Acharya Mun has patiently received the criticism. And not only has he not given rise to aversion and resentment, but actually he has a heart of compassion. And he's trying to teach this Naga that this way of being so critical, so judgmental of others will lead to a lot of suffering, not only in the present, but also in the future. So here's Acharya Mun continuing on. I've come here, I'll read this last paragraph that I thought was very good. I've come here to practice, living in this cave like a worthless social outcast, solely because I fear evil and its consequences. This is Acharya Mun talking about himself. I did not come here to harm or trouble anyone, nor do I feel contempt for any living being. I respect them all as friends whose lives are also subject to the laws of karma, and who are thus all of equal intrinsic value. I dedicate the merit of my actions equally to all beings with the hope that they may live in contentment wherever they may be. I have never taken the arrogant attitude that I am a human being ordained as a Buddhist monk and therefore superior to my companion in birth, aging, sickness, and death. This is actually a very useful reflection. Rather than looking at each other and comparing ourselves as smarter, more attractive, or the opposite, stupid, less attractive, all the ways that in society we compare ourselves to each other, you can cut through all of that and just realize we're all subject to birth, aging, sickness, and death. We're all brothers and sisters in birth, aging, sickness, and death. And that creates a level and equal mind and actually gives rise to compassion. So then Acharya Mun addresses this Naga. You too exist within this sphere of karma. So you ought to humbly reflect on how your own faults affect you. Criticizing others without proper consideration will never bring you good result. It merely piles up the ill effects of bad karma, which they linger on indefinitely. You should feel dismayed by your errant behavior and drop this dangerous practice. Only then can you hope to become a good individual with a chance for a better, happier birth in the future. Then your mean, angry heart will soften, and you can avoid being engulfed in misery forever. All living beings in this universe, from humans and animals to devas, brahmas, and yakas, cherish happiness and loathe suffering. They do not have an aversion for Dharma simply because they can't yet put it into practice. Dharma has always been the quintessential nature of the universe. Those beings who are in the position to practice Dharma find great satisfaction in it. For instance, human beings. Their state of birth makes them well suited to practice Dharma. And you yourself are a living being who is fully capable of distinguishing between good and bad, and thus choosing what's most beneficial for you. So why do you do just the opposite? I am puzzled that you seem content to revel in those things which the wise abhor while scorning that which the wise applaud. You know about dukkha and you hate it, and yet strive to produce the very causes that bring you great unhappiness and discomfort. The wise tell us that our efforts to find fault with others produce consequences that cause greater and greater unhappiness. Exactly what you do shamelessly all the time. You may not be interested, but although I am fully aware of your despicable thoughts, I've always forgiven you. I'm not angry or offended, but I do feel sorry for you. Thus I have decided to tell you the plain truth. Should it prove useful to you, I shall be pleased for your sake. Right, mudita. I receive no unpleasant consequences from your thoughts, for I am not the one who engages in them. All I experience are peace, serenity, and loving kind compassion that has long been my heart's abode. The Naga didn't make any comment as Ajahn Mun explained these various aspects of Dhamma, but it did experience the rise of some salutary thoughts while listening. So Ajahn Mun can read his mind. This monk talks a lot of sense, but right now I'm unable to do as he says, being still too content with my old ways. Perhaps I'll have more interest in my next existence. This monk has many awesome qualities. He even perceives things that should be unknowable. How can he know my private thoughts? I live in a hidden world, yet somehow he sees me. Over the years, many monks have come to stay in this cave, but none have known about my existence, much less my thoughts. I've even forced some of them to flee because I couldn't stand having them around. This monk knows everything, including my thoughts. Even while sleeping, he remains aware. Later, he can tell me exactly what I was thinking, as if he hadn't been asleep at all. Why am I so opinionated that I can't take what he teaches to heart and put it into practice? Like he said, I must surely have some very grave karma. Despite knowing the despicable nature of my mind, he still makes an effort to explain how his daily activities are not intended to bother me. My present state of existence is certainly unfortunate. He is right when he says that I'm quite capable of distinguishing good and bad, yet I'm hampered by my wretched conceit, meaning that my next life will probably be just as unfortunate as this one, and so on indefinitely. Right? This Naga has a moment of self-reflection. You can say a bit of hiriotapa, the sense of I'm not living with integrity, and my actions will bring serious consequences. After a short pause, Ajahn Mun asked the Naga if he had managed to understand any of his explanations on Dhamma. The Naga replied, I understand everything you so kindly explained to me, but unfortunately I am burdened by some very grave karma, and I am yet to grow wary of my wretched condition. I am still debating this matter with myself, and I haven't come to any definite conclusions. My heart tends to gravitate towards a state of degradation, as it always has, and it balks at listening to the Dharma you are teaching. But he rejects the Dharma in his heart. Ajahn Mun asked the Naga what it meant by saying that its heart liked to gravitate toward a state of degradation. The Naga answered, "My heart enjoys finding fault with you all the time. Even though you've done nothing wrong, that's just the way my heart is. I don't know how to convince myself of the harmful effects of this tendency so I can correct it and practice the way of virtue from now on." Ajahn Mun offered some words of encouragement. Now, this is very important for us because I think in the modern times we really learn how to find fault with other people. So here Acharya Mun's encouragement. Careful consideration will convince you that such bad tendencies are truly harmful. Right? The kind of feeling of superiority and contentment and you could say excitement when we think that we're better than other people is actually truly harmful. We begin to develop a cruel heart, a mean heart, a twisted heart, right? And then our actions in the world also can become even violent, right? So we have to reflect carefully. Finding fault with others causes me to really be broken inside and broken in my relationships. Once you are persuaded, then evil will naturally begin to fade from your heart, ceasing to be so conspicuous in the future. So through careful consideration, wise reflection, these negative tendencies start to slowly dissipate. But by assuming that these tendencies are beneficial and then encouraging them, you'll naturally tend to think in an endless variety of ways that are detrimental to you. Unless you hurry to improve things now, you'll keep on doing evil until you're completely beyond help. I cannot do this job for you. I can give you some guidance, but it's up to you to make the necessary adjustments to your character. So if we take our bad habits and create lots of justifications for it, for instance, I'm fault finding of other people and say, you know what, my fault finding is actually really good for them because, you know, they need my advice, they need my correction. I'm really superior to them, and or you know, I just find great joy in my kind of sense of pride and self, so that this fault finding has a lot of fertile ground to grow in, right? If we keep thinking about these things as beneficial for us, or that I can make more money because I can find other people's faults and manipulate them for my benefit. There's lots of things that we sometimes have as our justifications for our afflictions and faults. And actually no one can do it for us. If we really want to change, we're going to have to work on ourselves, moment to moment, thought by thought, emotion by emotion. The onus is on you to press ahead, trying to accomplish it as best you can. Once you do, you will see the dangerous aspect of your character gradually diminish as beneficial qualities develop, displacing them until all that's left is pure, simple virtue, untainted by any form of evil. By placing your faith in the Dhamma of the Lord Buddha, rather than placing faith in our own internal narrative, our own story about ourselves, right? We take refuge in the Dharma, which has always helped living beings transcend dukkha. You will always be contented living under its protective influence. Never feeling distraught, never disturbed, you remain even-tempered in every situation. You won't be moved to praise one thing as good and criticize another as bad, and so suffer the resulting consequences. Conduct like that is contrary to the wise. So we'll maybe stop there given the time, but I think this is actually a really important advice for us. So where do we take refuge? We take refuge in our fault finding, or we take refuge in the Dharma. And if we take refuge in the Dharma, little bit by little bit, we find that the ways we find fault with the world, or even the ways that we praise the world, slowly begin to dissipate. and we begin to just accept things as they are. And our hearts and our bodies relax and become very even-tempered, very steady. And I think in this times now when there's so much anxiety, so much worry, right? Given the war in Ukraine, the pandemic, the natural disasters, the economy, just trying to raise children now in a very difficult time where there's so much technology and manipulation through the media. It's like there's so much that we can get pulled into. And we can say, actually, no. I don't want to fuel the seeds of affliction in my heart. I want to actually take refuge in the Dharma. And how do we do that? Well, I think the first step is if we catch ourselves, just relax. Go to the body, relax. And remind ourselves, you know what, I'm here not to flame the fuels of affliction, but to really cultivate the seeds of well-being and happiness. Okay, so maybe just that much for this morning. Let's do 3 steps, 1 bow. I'll have to go help with the class, so I won't be able to join us, but Jin-Chuan Shi will lead it.